Hey, and welcome to the Izzy Chinche Show.
I think we live in like a diet culture, where it's like calories in, calories out, like trends, for example. And we've gotten so away from like really knowing where our food is.
I am so pumped that you tuned in. My goal with the show is to inspire and motivate you to the best of my abilities. I believe our world needs more leaders, and I believe that you, my listener, are a leader, and that you have the opportunity to impact your community and family by simply being you. I truly am here to try and serve and offer value to your life. And if you enjoy the show, it would mean the most to me if you could please either rate, subscribe, or share the show with anyone who you think might benefit from listening. Together, we can make this world a better place. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you love today's episode. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Genta. I'm super excited to do this and get to connect with you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Izzy. Thank you so much for having me on. I know we've been working on trying to do this for a while, so I'm really excited to be here and really excited to just dive in and talk about all the good health, holistic health, all of the above. So I'm super excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So for people who don't know, you are a gut health kind of expert and just an overall holistic health coach. Can you kind of give a little intro of who you are and what you do and how you help people?
Yeah, of course. I want to take it back a little bit and talk about how I got in the space of holistic health and holistic coaching to begin with. So I'm a leadership and well-being coach, and I've told people a little bit of my story about how I kind of got into being in this space, but I haven't really put all of the pieces together. So I think this will be really good for me. So this will be the first time that I'm actually doing this, and it's really personal for me. So I hope your audience is ready to get personal with me. So
Absolutely. No, this
yeah.
is exactly what's going to resonate the most. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like on social media we always put out like that polished stuff.
Yep.
We never really talk about like the messy beginnings, I like to call it. So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
go in. Let me put my phone on do not disturb here. All right, so I want to take you guys back like all the way to when I was a little girl. And I grew up in a very small city in Albania, and I would say my childhood was it was pretty scary. I grew up in a family environment where domestic violence was just very prevalent. But some of my happiest moments were going to my grandmother's farm. So every summer, my parents would send my sister and I to my grandmother's farm. And, there I just like, it was so healing for me, like being in that environment and, like being in the garden and like cooking with her and making bread and hanging out with my cousins and the friends that I was making there. Picking vegetables and I remember on her porch she had like grapes, like kind of just
Yes.
yeah, on the top. I don't even know what but it was just so beautiful, and it really helped me just be a kid again. Like I got to enjoy what it really felt like to just play and be joyful and not have to worry about like, being a referee in a boxing match. And so for me, those experiences of like making cheese with my grandmother and like milking the cows and like riding horses, like I say that now and just like looking back on it, I was like, wow, I was very privileged to actually be able to experience some of those things. But, for me, like that environment and the food and the relationships, and the closeness that I felt was really healing for me. And so, eventually my family and we moved to the States when I was, about 10 years old. And I found myself always looking for that safety and always looking for that worthiness. And gosh, it's been quite a journey. About 5 years ago, I found myself, I think, at a very low point in my life. I gained 35 pounds. I was struggling with like anxiety, feeling stressed, depression. At times, I was working 12 hours a day because that's where I found my worthiness, and I was so good at it. So it like my job kind of almost became like a drug
Mm,
where it's like you're succeeding, so like keep going, right? Those dopamine
yeah,
hits,
exactly.
so it's like you're doing good, you're doing good, but then I felt like I was failing in so many other areas of my life, and it was like, here's proof that you suck. And it was
Mm,
just this negative thought after negative thought after negative thought. And the way I think all of these things kind of came up for me is I ended up doing a workshop, a gratitude training workshop, and I think I came face to face with like literally my whole entire life. Every single decision that I've made, every single decision that I hadn't made, the way I treated people, just like my life in general. I think I really came face to face with it, and I just didn't like what I saw. And like being in that sort of environment, I think, or in that headspace, I think I literally was making myself sick. Um,
mm,
I got a physical one point, I think a couple of years ago, and my cycle was very off. Like I would have these extreme highs and lows, my hormones just like all over the place. So my doctor said, "Well, hey, let's do some blood tests. Let's kind of see what's going on." So I did some blood tests. It came out that like my pituitary gland, which
mm,
is this little bean size. It's at the back of your head here, and it regulates like hormone function, metabolism. And she's like, "Well, your levels are elevated, so we don't exactly know what's going on, but we'll send you to a specialist. We'll do an MRI, and hopefully, we don't think of it as anything, but it could also be a tumor." So
wow.
I'm like freaking out, like crying. I went and I ended up getting an MRI. Found out that it had like shifted just a little bit, but not enough to cause issues or problems. And then right before my birthday, like a few weeks before my birthday, I found like lumps in my breast. So of course, like the
Yeah,
worst. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my God, like this is where it ends. Like I'm gonna
yeah,
die.
yeah.
Um and I remember I have a dog sitting business as well, so I was dropping them off at my client's house, and it was like raining that day, and I remember this very very vividly. I sat in my car.
You're okay.
um yeah. I I sat in my car and I broke down. Um because I'm like, I have so much to live for. Like
Mm,
this can't be it. And I have so many things that I want to finish and that I want to accomplish. And
mm,
so I made a deal with the universe that day, and I said, hey, if it turns out that I don't have breast cancer, I promise you I'll spend the rest of my life like making it mean something. And
mm,
so I think that's where this passion, I think, for holistic health started. And I started just reading every personal development book that I could get my hands on, attending every seminar. I started going back to the gym again, and to bring it like kind of full circle, like I went back to what I knew as that little girl of, how to heal myself through food and community and connection. And the recently I went to a conference with some individuals that I work with, and it really, how Brendan talks about like what's that demarcation line for you. So I was at this conference and, we had hired a whole bunch of like salespeople and it was the first time that I was meeting him, and he said, "Oh, I didn't realize you were such an important piece to this company. I thought you were just another pretty face." And so for me, like my ego, like internally, I'm like, fuck you, man. Like I've worked my ass off these past 11 years to like get to the place that I am right now. And on top of that, I'm like, no, actually, I sit at the executive table with your boss, who's the president of this company. But I didn't say that. And I think for me, that was where I knew I had overcome something because
I
it was no longer, oh, here goes this other failure again, right? Like I've worked my ass off, and yet, this person that doesn't even know anything about me made a huge assumption that I'm at this place where I'm at in my life right now because of my looks.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, just to bring it full circle, I thinking about that, I'm like, man, if I was able to overcome this, the need or the want to feel seen and empowered and confident, how many other women are struggling out there with this? And my perspective on it is a little bit unique in that I like to do all of those things through nutrition and through talking about, gut health and um, how can we be at the top of our health? Because my philosophy is health is the rising tide that kind of lifts all boats. So once we do have that, I think as women and as powerful women, I think I mean, we have the world in our hands. And so
I
that's what
love
I do now. Like I spend my time giving back and working with these powerful women that are leading the change and are really creating something that will have a legacy. And how can we do that? By not ruining our health.
I love it. Yeah. Here, thanks for being so vulnerable and sharing that and like that's an incredible story, and like your story is what's going to resonate the most with people, and like that's what I tell like people I'm talking to. I'm like, our mess is our message. Like the messy part's the part that we like half the time don't want to share. I'm like, that's exactly what we need to be sharing. So I appreciate you being so
Yeah.
open and
Exactly. And what's funny? I got this comment the other day when I was meeting with one of our chief strategy officers. He's like, "You're very polished." I'm like, "Man, if you only knew, like, the stuff that I've really had to, endure and go through. Like, it's messy, but I think that's life, and I think
yeah.
all of those messy pieces, I think that's just what creates something that's beautiful and something that's everlasting.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I love that you said, health is the tide that raises, all boats. I think that's
Yeah.
so cool because like if if I don't feel good, if I'm not doing the right things, like I can't accomplish the things that I want slash need to accomplish.
Mhm.
Like even if I'm someone who like sleep is tough for me. I work really hard on my sleep and I've never been a good sleeper. Like there's a lot of things, but it's like it's such a priority to me though, because if I'm tired, I'm like, you're getting nothing almost.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and all
Exactly.
those things connect. And I think my friend and I both talk about this a lot, like just like especially what we feed kids now these days. It's so
Mm.
scary. It's just so scary. Like there's so much garbage in everything that we're eating. And I'm a big like I'm sure you have so many things on this, but I just try and read labels as much as possible.
Oh yeah.
That's probably like my biggest thing that I do. I'm like, if I can't pronounce it, there's some red flags going on.
Oh my God, yeah, exactly. And it's, what you said is exactly right though. Like it's so holistic and it's not really just about, the food that we're eating. It's also that lifestyle, like your eating habits or I'm sorry, your sleeping habits, like you
Yeah.
mentioned, has so much to do with our overall health. I was listening to a podcast recently that was talking about, how diseases lately are just moving to like younger and younger and younger age groups, like hypertension, heart disease, anxiety, depression, like obesity as an all-time high, cancer. We hear so many, so many young people these days are like getting cancer, and I'm like, what's
Yeah.
happening? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's super important for sure.
Yeah. It's in our food for sure. So what was kind of like the biggest shifts that you had in your food once you started making that shift? I mean, like, I'm making some life changes. What were like the big things that you shifted that kind of moved you forward?
Yeah, so one of the big ones was focusing on what I was actually eating, like the food that I was putting in my body. I never really realized like the impact that it had on not only like my energy levels, but like, how I felt throughout the day too. And I want to, we all want to be healthy, right? Like at the end of the day, like nobody really wants to be sick.
Yeah.
Um, but I think for me, it was really eliminating like ultra processed foods, but not necessarily sticking to like one particular diet and being so super restrictive about it.
Yeah.
Um, I think, I think we live in like a diet culture, where it's like calories in, calories out. Like trends, for example, and we've gotten so away from like really knowing where our food is, and we just want those like, or food comes from, and we just want those like quick options. But I think for me it really was, first of all, it started with self-love. I
Mm.
think I think that was the major shift. Like I get to show up for myself and I get to do this for myself. And then everything else, it kind of just falls into place from there. Like when you're committed to, I don't want to feel this way anymore.
Yeah.
I'm committed to like something different. Then it's funny how it just kind of like works out.
Yep. Yep. And because that presents, I think I like that you said it is self love, but when you like think about your body, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go put these cookies and chips in my body. I'm like that, and like there's balance, and sometimes you can
For
do the
sure.
thing, but then sometimes it's like if you're doing that over and over again, you're truly like abusing your body. You
Hmm.
are not treating yourself well. Just like you can do it on the other end of like working out too much and going too hard,
Oh
but
yeah.
there's balance, but like just that mental shift, like it all starts up here. Like, well, am I being kind to myself? Am I being kind to my body? Am I being grateful for the work that my body has to do for me
Hmm.
every single day? It's a whole other way of thinking, but I think once we make that shift, the action is much easier to implement.
Yeah, exactly. I think you nailed it. I think balance is super important, right? Because I mean, you could go from one extreme to the other. We're
Yeah.
not really taking care of yourself, to then like now you're a gym rat and you're like, 5, 6 hours at the gym a day. Like there definitely has to be that balance there. And there's nothing wrong with having the cookie or the chips, you know what I mean? Like I love snacks too. But it's just about, again, like you mentioned, like finding that balance and knowing like when we are turning to foods or maybe even snacks as a way of like a coping mechanism. Because I mean, food
Yeah.
is very emotional. If you think about it, right? Like if we're feeling sad or we're going through something, we want comfort foods.
This is true. This is really true. And I think I would say the ultra processed foods that I struggle with most is like protein bars and protein shakes.
Yeah.
And it's just and it's like what you said, it's easy. It's fast and it's easy. And sometimes I'm like, is he really like you're gonna you're gonna, take this cheap protein shake? But I'm like, but at least it's not like empty. I'm getting protein and like that's something.
Yeah.
But there's actually this really awesome protein company called Essentially Whole, and
Mhm.
it's a woman, she has like really good protein powders and supplements that are like the lowest ingredients possible and the least processed possible. I think her protein powder has like 3, maybe 4 ingredients on it, and I'm like, that's what I try and do the absolute
Yeah.
most. Yeah, it's not as processed, and like we forget even when we're like, oh, it's a protein bar, it's a protein shake, which is better than having empty calories.
Of
It's
course.
still highly processed, and I look at the back some of these protein shakes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what any of these ingredients are. I'm so concerned. I drink these all the time, and it's
Yeah.
delicious. I need to get on
Yeah.
that essentially whole train and just try and say that, because it's difficult. It's difficult to navigate.
It definitely is, especially nowadays where like I mean, if you go to a grocery store, there's probably like at least over 70,000 different items that you can just purchase. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like why?
Yeah.
Um, but I think like marketing is getting really smart too, in the sense that like and this is so funny. Honey Nut Cheerios, for example, like helps with your heart.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
like since when does like cereal helps with like your heart? You know what I mean? Or
It's a
like sugar.
processed sugary wheat.
Yeah, exactly. Or you know like sugar-free this or like gluten-free that, right? So I think the marketing has gotten really smart and like we're falling for it, you know,
Mhm.
but you know, like I mentioned, like people do want to be healthy. And so when they're
Yeah.
getting these products, like you mentioned, a protein bar, like you're thinking, oh, this is a great
Yeah.
way for me to start my breakfast or start
Yeah.
my day with a protein bar. But then you're
That's it.
looking at it, you're like, man, this is either diabetes in a bar or I'm gonna have a really like a crash midday, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's a highly processed food that's going to be tough for me to break down. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think the other thing, I was just talking to my sister about this. I was like, a lot of time people are like, "Oh, I'll just go to Jamba Juice. I'll just go to Smoothie King and get a smoothie because that feels healthy."
Yeah.
I'm like, they literally like so many of the smoothies have like sherbet ice cream in them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm giving a strawberry smoothie like it might feel. It's like, dude, it's not like the way that we think it is so many times, but it's tough because, like you said, the marketing is good. And I think the
hmm
sugar-free thing is something that'll get me is like, oh, I'm like sugar-free, 0 calorie drink. And I'm like, but there's 10,000 ingredients on the back of it. I'm like, and it's 0 calories. How? Like, what am I drinking?
Yeah,
Like
exactly right.
diet soda, like a diet anything. You're like, what is in there? Like, I really don't know. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
scary.
all the dextrose, sucrose, all the oses, right? It's like what? Like, is this a different language? What am I reading here?
Yeah, some sort of chemical that. And the crazy thing is, like, these studies will come out and they'll say, like, we know these have,
hmm
cancerous properties within them, and they're still selling, and we're still buying, and it's like their budget for marketing is 100 times more. It's even more than 100 times. I listened to the stat on it than like that of like organic, locally sourced products. We just don't
hmm
have the marketing bandwidth to actually spread the information on the healthy things and like get it in front of the right people. It's like Coke and Pepsi have the capacity to market at such a high level. People are going to keep buying.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And I think, you know, I mean, we do got to bear some of that responsibility, right? Like we also got to do our own homework and, you know, not put it all on these like companies because at the end of the day, they're running a business and I mean,
They're running a business.
their goal is like right. Their goal is profits. They're you know that's what they want to see. So they're creating a problem, and then they're like, "Hey, here's the solution, and this solution is a weight loss drug, and that weight loss drug might actually kill you, but you know it's that temporary relief that you're gonna that you're gonna get.
You'll look good. You'll look good.
Yeah, but you'll look good along the way. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to see kind of how like food has evolved. You know, we go from being like hunter gatherers and like, you know, killing
Mm.
our own food to then we go from, I mean, if you think about it, I think like once we started cooking our own food, right? That was the process of processing food because now we're no longer eating you know, like whole foods that we've picked or raw foods that we've
Yeah.
picked from, you know, trees, a garden, or whatever it may be. We're processing it, and then we moved from you know cooking our food to now you have an app, you know, and a stranger will just deliver the food to you in like a half hour, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how the trajectory is going for sure.
Yes. And that concept of like now eating healthy is to eat real food.
Yeah, right?
Know, eating healthy is to eat vegetables and chicken and like that is eating real food is eating healthy
Like
now.
eating real food is eating, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've probably heard this on there was I think it was like an Instagram reel that went viral. Like eating real food is like going on a diet, I think it said.
Oh yes, yes. It's going on a
Yeah,
diet to eat real food.
yeah.
Yeah, it's totally a thing. It's like no
So it's
process. Yeah,
totally a
it's
thing.
oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, all that to say, I think when I actually think about it, I'm like, I'm not feeling well. I'm off my A game, and I'm like going back to consumption.
Hmm.
Okay, what am I eating? I mean, what am I listening to? Like the consumption piece. I think that's huge. So you said you cut out processed foods, and what was kind of like the process of like you cut out these things? What were your main things you wanted to put in as you work to create a new life for yourself?
Yeah, so I ended up actually enrolling at the one of the biggest nutrition schools in the world, Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and that's where I literally learned um, how not only food but like having that holistic perspective on health is actually what's really going to move us forward. So definitely cutting out processed foods and adding more fruits and more vegetables and whole grains and lean meats, but also like actually listening to what my body needs. Like there's a reason why we crave certain things at certain times. And so once I was really in tune with, okay, I'm feeling this way, and this is how it's showing up by me craving, whether it was cheese or whether it was ice cream. There's a reason why, why we crave certain foods. So I think definitely like listening to my body, diversifying my diet. I love fermented foods, like pickles is my thing. So, like adding more fermented foods like pickles, kefir, like sauerkraut, kombucha, those things really helped my gut heal.
Mhm.
And once I was able to heal my gut, then, my energy levels came back. I wasn't feeling as stressed out anymore, or I knew how to deal with like stresses that were coming up better. I feel like it gave me lots of clarity.
Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, yeah, and this is good we're having this convo because I'm like, all right, I need to reevaluate some of the things that are so
Yeah.
easy, some of the things that are so quick. And it's like, what? So I'm in the long run, I'm sacrificing how I'm going to feel for a quick fix, which ultimately is going to slow me down in the long run. Like it's not going to pay off. Might pay off for, gives me 5 extra minutes this morning, but I don't think those 5 extra minutes are as crucial as we think sometimes.
Instant gratification. Like we're like created for it.
Yeah.
We're totally created for it. But that's what we want. Like we don't have to think about what we're gonna have to have for like breakfast or lunch or dinner, or go through the process of actually making the food. And like, we want that quick fix, especially in the world that we live in right now.
Yeah.
Everything is like quick, quick, quick. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Don't waste time. And like sometimes we just need to take a step back and be like, okay, like how do I actually nourish myself? Whether
Yeah.
it's physically, whether it's mentally, spiritually. And I think for me, like I don't enjoy cooking all the time, but every time that I do it, I just feel so good about it. I put on some music, whether it's like dinner time
Yeah.
jazz or
Love it. Yeah.
I try to make it fun, and make it an experience. Like, why not have fun with
Yeah. No, I've seen some of your things that you've posted that you cook. It
it?
looks amazing and healthy and beautiful. I'm like, wow.
I have to contribute a lot of that to my husband too. He's like he's the cook. He's the cook, the chef of the family. So
Is he really? Oh my gosh, that's so
yeah,
interesting.
he has a passion for it. Loves to cook too. So it's been, I mean, it's also like brought us together from that perspective too, because it's like, we're
Okay.
cooking together and we're enjoying that time together. Which is what food really does, right? Like you eat or you cook with those that you love. I mean,
True.
I don't know if I'd ever want to go out with somebody that I don't like and share a meal with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm
So
like, I don't want to eat. I don't even want to eat while I'm around
y-
you. That's a good point. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's something. I mean, that's such a good point, actually. Like, even if you're uneasy with someone or something happened between someone else, like, you don't want to eat. Like, typically, like, I'm like, this is not good. I was like, I didn't like this vibe. Like, I don't have an appetite. Like, I don't want to eat. That's very interesting. But it's easy, like, when you're around friends and family and there's food, you're like,
Hmm.
give it all to me. I'm ready for it. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, because our system feels safe when, when we are around those family and friends. And so we are, we're enjoying it. And I think part of that joy is like um, sharing like sharing a meal with somebody. But when our body isn't stressed, right? Like if you're, maybe you're having a conflict with somebody, like the last thing that you're going to think about is like enjoying a meal with them because cortisol has taken over our body. Like
Mhm.
if you think about it, like when we're under stress or like when we're getting chased by, like, I like to give the analogy of getting chased by a bear. If you're getting chased by a bear, the last thing that you're gonna want to think of is like eating.
Eating.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so your body doesn't know the difference whether you're getting chased by a bear, whether you're, having a conflict with somebody that you don't necessarily know how to kind of deal with, or whether you got like an email from, someone on your team that's stressing you out. It doesn't, it doesn't know the difference. But what's the same is like that cortisol levels.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's tough for us to then like digest our food and enjoy our time,
Yeah.
especially when our body's under constant stress.
Yeah. And going back to your point on like hunter gatherer, like we used to spend our time out hunting,
Hmm.
gathering, and there was reward in that. And then we would cook our food and we eat together. And now we go and work so that we don't have to do that. So that it's
Right?
done
Isn't
for
that
us. And it's
crazy?
like, yeah, I've been really thinking about this recently because I've been thinking, I'm like, I want to farm. Like, that's what, like, I kind of want to head down that road because I'm like, why have we gotten so far away? We Now people are working their 9 to 5 job to not, have a cow and garden and everything. Like, they're, you know what I mean? I'm like, and that gets us even further disconnected from like our time outside, like, not eating a bunch of crap and stuff.
Hmm.
It's like interesting how we've kind of like flipped, and people like now be like, oh my gosh, that's so much work to have a farm. I'm like, now you look at it like, well, it's a lot of work to have a job, so you don't have to do that. you know?
Exactly, right? And I think we've gotten so used to eating at our desk, like eating at our car, and like you mentioned, like we've gone so much away from really having that tight knit closeness to where our food is coming from, where our nutrition is coming from, and like being outside and like sharing all of that with the people that mean a lot to us. So
Yeah.
it's like it's concerning, but I do have hope.
Yeah.
I do have hope that we are moving towards that trajectory of like where I think we are starting to realize that a lot of the food that we are eating has contributed so much to, especially lately, like, stress and anxiety. And like, I think COVID really
Yeah.
highlighted the need to be healthy.
I agree. And I think also like we used to have so many family dinners, We like
Hmm.
family were such a big thing. Like even for a lot of years when I was growing up, like we had dinner as a family every single night. And like that was standard. It was like, okay, if you're gonna go hang out with your friends, you have to be back by dinner because the family, I have other
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
family now. It's like I don't even hear that as much very often at all. It's like everyone kind of does their own thing. They all kind of hang
Hmm.
out, whatever. But it's like that community around it. No, we all took the time to sit down and eat dinner together. Now that's like more of a occasion thing. Now it's like on the holidays we eat together, you know, and it's like, and that used to be like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you know, and taking that away.
I know. Yeah. And now it's like a luxury. Now it's like a luxury to sit down and like eat with your family or your friends, and we make it like once a year kind of thing, or like twice a year kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we put our efforts to, you know, like just like at least for me, like climbing that corporate ladder, and I'm just like why, like, you know, kill myself, you know, just putting in all of these hours and then letting all of these other things that are also important kind of fall to the wayside.
Yeah, no, that's true. So what is kind of your goal moving forward with like your coaching and job and moving forward in this space?
Yeah, it's such a great question, as I think I've definitely gotten a lot of clarity, especially in the past year, of what impact that I want to, you know, leave, or what legacy that, like I said, you know, earlier, I do want my life to mean something, whether it's in contribution or in service. And so I tell this all the time, I have a very simple mission, and that is to make mindful living a way of life. So, you know, I think that starts with health and like taking care of ourselves, but also having that support. You know, for me, a lot of the battles that I fought, you know, I fought them in silence and on my own. And for others that are out there and that are facing, you know, similar things, whether it's, you know, wanting to feel empowered or wanting to feel like, you know, worthy, that they matter, and they want to get their health back on track. There's, you know, just reach out, like there's support there. And so, you know, that's my mission and that's my goal, to be able to give back and be in service to others that, you know, may be at the same place that I was 5 years ago. I think my coach and my mentors, one of the things that they say is, you're most qualified to help the person that you used to be. You know, like, I love that. I love that. So, you know, if you've overcome something that maybe to you is something small right now, you know, somebody else can look at that and be like, wow, that's so inspirational. Like, how did you do that? So, yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I love it. I think, you know, more people need to hear it, need to be inspired. Where can people connect with you, and, you know, potentially you coach people one-on-one, or do you have a course?
I do. I work with individuals on a one-on-one basis in my private coaching world, and then I'm also working on a course that I'll be launching soon. I can't wait for it. It kind of ties all of the things that I work through with my clients right now on a one-on-one basis, but more from like a course perspective, so that you have all of those materials there whenever, you know, you need to reach out to those. But yeah, you can find me I'm on Instagram, Genta Vasquez. You can find me on Instagram. I can give you my email as well, hello@gentavasquez.com. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, like I'm always happy to be in service and you know, play my role in empowering somebody.
I love it. Yeah, that's all we can do. That's all we're here for. But thank you so much for joining. This was awesome.
Thank you, Izzy. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, I would greatly appreciate if you could share this episode with 5 people you think could benefit from the show. Also, please feel free to connect with me on Instagram @IzzyChinche or my website at izzychinche.com. Thank you so much for being you. Keep being a leader and making this world a better place.